Should you buy a Nintendo Switch in 2021? It's a great question because the Nintendo Switch has been out for quite a while now. Since it came out, Nintendo have released a Switch Lite. There are also rumors that a 4K Switch Pro is going to come out soon, which will have a better display and is more powerful. No one really knows exactly what it's going to be like, but I can tell you one thing that new 4K Switch Pro won't have, and it's something this Switch does have: the ability to install custom firmware, and to do all the things I'm going to talk about later in this video. In my opinion, the Switch you should buy is a Switch that was built before August 2019. And the reason for this is in 2019, Nintendo patched a vulnerability in the chip inside this Switch. Now, that vulnerability meant on these old Switches, I can install custom firmware. It's an unpatched Nintendo Switch, a bit like being able to jailbreak an iPhone. The difference between jailbreaking and having an unpatched Switch is Nintendo can't do anything in software to get rid of this vulnerability. Once you have an unpatched Switch, you have an unpatched Switch forever. This thing is in high demand and there's only so many of them. So I recommend buying a Nintendo Switch that comes in a box that looks like this and not in a box that looks like this. And also checking that the serial number of the Switch falls in this range. You see, you should not wait for a 4K Switch Pro because although it may be really powerful, it's not going to be able to do all the things I'm going to talk about in this video. Now, before I go on to talking about those, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's subscribed to this channel, everyone who watches these videos, everyone who comments below. It really helps me to make more. And if you have anything to say about this video, please leave a comment down below. I try to reply to every single one. I do read them all, so thank you. Let's talk about all the things you can do on an unpatched Nintendo Switch. The first one I want to talk about is the ability to play backup games. If you already own a game, then it's perfectly legal to download that game from the internet and install it on your Switch and play it on the go. It means you don't have to take the card around everywhere you go and search for the disc. The downside of this is you can't play online. Well, you can play online, but you risk getting your console banned from online play. So it's better to stick to offline play for the backups you download and then play online with the actual cartridge in the console. Now, why would you want to do this? Apart from being able to not carry your cartridges around everywhere, when Nintendo removed Mario All-Stars from stores, physical stores and digital stores, it left a bad taste in my mouth. It left a bad taste in the mouths of Nintendo fans everywhere. If they're going to continue with this strategy of time-limiting games, then maybe the only way we can guarantee the ability to play them in the future is to be able to download and install them. What if you lost your copy of All-Stars tomorrow? Is that it? You just can't play it anymore? You have to buy one at a hugely inflated price because it's limited? And when Nintendo removed the 3DS and Wii U stores last year, they reminded us that the ability to download things digitally is limited. Even for brand new consoles, that will one day come to an end. So playing backups, that's obvious. You probably already knew that, right? But what you might not know is the amount of fan-made ports that exist for this thing. Now, the Nintendo port of Super Mario was not as good as the fan-made port that exists. The fan-made port is high resolution and full widescreen, unlike the Nintendo port. How are independent developers, in their spare time no less, making better ports for free than Nintendo themselves? And the only way you can play this Mario 64 port is with custom firmware. It doesn't end with Mario 64. There's Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, Tomb Raiders 1-4, Castle Wolfenstein, Half-Life, Duke Nukem. There's loads more. The full list is here, but I'm also going to post the link to the Reddit down below. These games run natively as if they were built from the Switch. This isn't emulation. Developers voluntarily have gone through the old code, decompiled it, or reverse engineered it, and built a game engine for the Switch. If you want to play these games, you'll need to be able to run custom firmware. So as well as these native ports I just talked about, you can also run full system emulators on the Switch. Now the easiest way to do this is through RetroArch, but in some circumstances, dedicated emulators will give you better performance. So the Switch can play pretty much anything up to the SNES, up to the Game Boy Advance. It also played most PSP titles I threw at it, but it starts to get a bit trickier when you go to the PS1 and beyond, like with most emulators. The good thing about the Switch is the community is constantly working on this. These emulators are constantly being developed. It's not like with the PSP where what you get is all you're going to get. These will get better. Now, the old games look fantastic on this 6.2-inch screen, and the Switch gives us a way to play these old games on a TV. The fourth benefit is you can also run Android on your Nintendo Switch. Now, everything you think would work does work. Netflix, Prime Video, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube. You also have access to an entire new library of Android games, such as Call of Duty, God knows what else is on the Android Play Store. From Android, you can also play Xbox via the Switch. the digital nature of the analog sticks on the Switch, I mean, it's not perfect and there is a bit of latency, but it's fun nonetheless. And if you think you might enjoy it, give it a shot. I get it, you're probably not going to fire up Spotify on your Switch to listen to music when your phone can do the same thing, but having Netflix and YouTube on a bigger screen and still being able to use your phone independently while a movie is playing is definitely an advantage. So all else aside, being able to run Android is definitely useful for video on demand. Now, to me, Nintendo games have never been about the graphics. They've always been about the gameplay. They've always been about playing on the go. They've been about sitting down with 3 of your friends and playing in front of the TV. So there's no point, in my opinion, on waiting on the new 4K Switch. It's not going to be able to do all the things we just talked about. It's not going to be able to do the things I haven't talked about, such as I can use an Xbox controller with this natively because of custom firmware. I can install themes on it because of custom firmware. Android, backups, fan-made ports. I just can't see how the new Switch that comes out could be a better deal than this. But let me know if I've missed anything. Let me know if you don't agree with what I've said or if I've got this completely wrong. I read every single comment and I try to reply to most. So Nintendo Switch, don't buy new, buy secondhand. And I'll see you guys in the next one.